Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Thrillos International, your number one English source for all things Olympiacos. We're back again Sunday night. Things have cleared up in the league, or should I say they've pretty much stayed the same. Aris finds themselves at the top of the league with, who's it, Bauk in close second already. Marshall, let me get this right. Good start to the show.
It's Pauk, 20 points, 1 point less.
So, indeed, 21 points for Aris, 20 points for Bauk, and AEK and Olympiacos tied on 18 points, joint third place. A week before a big game in the league against Bauk, we traveled to Dubai. That's going to be a big one next week, and opportunity for us to cut the gap and hope for some slip-ups from Aris. How are you feeling, Marshall?
Well, it's going to be an interesting week because when you think about it, like we've played against the league game we had until now, basically all of them are part of the derby against Panserraikos, maybe. Looked like all the same almost. Like smaller teams parking the bus and us wasting so many situations. So against PAOK, that will be a good test for both some players and for the coach and for the club in general, I'd say. So I'm excited because the schedule is quite. When you're a player, you don't need extra motivation to have a week like that. You have Rangers at home, then you have PAOK away, then you have Hike home, if I'm not mistaken, and then you have FCSB away. So, all players love like schedule like that, I would say.
So that's right. We've got Rangers on Thursday, then we've got Bauk away, and you're right. We've got international break after the Bauk game, and we come back and we play AEK at home, and we've got Steaua Bucharest at the end of the month, taking us to the end of November. So yeah, that's a pretty tasty schedule until the end of November, I would say. And a lot, as always, we've said it a few times this season, things can, the atmosphere can really change quite quickly from one game to the other. I mean, if we go into the game against Rangers, Bauk, AEK, and you come out with 3 wins, everything's fantastic. If we, everything depends on the results by the end of the month. Anything can happen at Olympiacos. I'm not insinuating anything about the manager. We can talk about that as we get through the show. Before we dive, sorry, go ahead.
It reminds me when Mendilibar got appointed, because if I'm correct, we had PAOK away, Europe, and another big game, and he won it all. Like he basically started with 100% win rate.
Yeah, that was the 4-1 away fixture.
Yeah,
it was one of his it was one of his first games, I guess.
I think he had Ferencváros before, maybe.
Yep. And that was a magical game last season. The 4-1 away fixture against PAOK.
Yeah.
Before we dive into things, we're going to talk about the Panserraikos game. We'll talk about what we saw, what the manager talked about, some focus on specific players. And before we do that, though, guys, like we ask you every week, for those of you tuning in, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that like button. Really helps us to grow and keep growing the red and white community. Thank you for all the support we get from all of you guys and ladies all over the world. There is a giveaway happening on our Instagram page. For those of you that aren't following us on Instagram, you can win one of these select frames from the Conference League. It's a frame showing El Khabi's goal in the final. I actually have one of these at home. So if you're interested in winning one of those, entering the giveaway, head over to Instagram and follow the instructions there. Something else before we move into the game, there was some news from a former player that has retired, a much loved former player of ours. Possibly, I would say, not possibly, but for me, the best English player to ever play for this club, none other than Matt Darbishire. You can see one of the pictures we uploaded on our socials. Top frame, Matt Darbishire going like that. Can't hear you to 60,000 Panserraikos fans in the Olympic Stadium. That's the season, of course, that Panserraikos won the league, and we went there with pretty much nothing to play for. And I think he scores a header around the 60th minute, I think, in the second half, off a Lamana Luar cross, and he just like runs past the crowd there like that. And it's an epic picture. And of course, he was involved in quite a few epic moments, or at least, well, this one specifically we've been talking about, and Aeg as well. The final 4-4, he gets the third goal to take it into extra time. What do you remember of Matt Darbishire?
It's the celebration you mentioned, because it's pretty much the celebration every Olympiacos fan dreamed of as a kid, probably in front of rival fans like that. But I would say probably the Greek Cup final against AEK, because it has to be one of the craziest Greek game. I'm younger than you, Costa, but maybe I'm not wrong saying that. I don't recall any other game with so many ingredients on it, like goals, so many emotions into one game. And yeah, it was, as you said, it's the best English player to play in this club. And we know that for English players, sometimes it's not easy to be consistent or good in leagues like Greece, or even in France. We barely saw good English players, because it's the league in England, sorry, is that good, so they don't even have to go abroad. But he settled so quickly in Greece, and then later in Cyprus too. Like, he played for Omonia for so many years, and he had the goal in him. Like, I think it was a striker that was made to play abroad, and he's surely glad he made it to Olympiacos. He could have had a even better career, in my opinion, because when you move from Olympiacos, I went back to England later, but you don't find any club like that in England, because we were dominating not the league, but we are a dominant club. So I always loved strikers like that. Like, he was living for the goal, and I wish him a happy retirement.
Yeah, it was. He's probably one of the only players you could say that's loved by Olympiacos fan that's also worn the shirt of a club that wears a trifili on it.
That's true.
But no, shout out to Matt Darbishire. We actually did an interview with him on audio platform. You can listen to that interview if you go to our Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever you like listening to podcasts on. Check out the interview we did with Matt Darbishire. Sorry, guys, no video. Again, as I said, that was one of the first interviews that we did with the beginnings of Thrillos 7 International, before it became Thrillos International, Gate 7 International still at the time. Great interview. It's a guy with a good sense of humor. He's been a friend to this podcast for as long as we've been going. So thank you very much to Matt Darbishire for the memories. Happy retirement. I understand he's still going to be getting involved with football. I think one of his sons signed a pro contract, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, I think he'll still stick around football. So big ups to Matt Darbishire. That 4-4 game, the final of the cup against AEK. I was actually living in New York when that game was happening, and I was watching it in Astoria. And still today, I think it is one of the best games I've ever watched. Moving on to yesterday's game now. What were your thoughts, Marshall? Obviously, it's a win, but what's the taste in your mouth after that game?
As I said earlier, those games this season, like, they pretty much all look like the same, because we have multiple situations we do not convert, and it put us into danger Like it put us into big danger because somehow the defensive, I don't know exactly what's not working in defense, but the situation of the goal is both hilarious and worrying because like you can't hit a goal like that at home. Like it's a counter from a random player of Panserraikos, which is has some talent. I'm not debating that, but you see Carmo being beaten like that. You see the shot is deflected. Like I mean, it's a win as you said it, and I think it's on the only thing that matters. But the content in general is frustrating because it should have been 3-0 win, 4-0 win, and we have a massive issue when it comes to convert. And we are lucky that El Kaabi is able to score pretty much every time. Otherwise, if El Kaabi gets injured, man, we're getting into big trouble. That's the only analysis I will have of that game because the 3 points matter, especially before Europe. But I don't know. Maybe playing against PAOK is what we need to be more focused, to play with more passion. I don't know exactly what's the issue right now, but something's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, the win's important because we hadn't won in a month in the Greek Super League, which is ridiculous. So important to get back to winning ways. Then again, it was very, very nervous, and there were, going 1-0 up. What was it with Velde in the 20? I think it was midway through the first half. We got the first goal, which was a great finish. I like to see the link-up play with Gelson Martins on the left. They did that quite a bit at the beginning of the game. You saw kind of Gelson drifting and playing close with Velde, and they were terrorizing the Panserraikos wing back down that our left-hand side. And I certainly paid attention to that the first 15, 20 minutes of the game. And it led to the goal, of course, which he dummies the defender who slide tackles, and then he goes inside the other defender and smashes it into the corner with an emphatic finish. And that was, it's trademark. Like what we saw that during preseason friendlies against Nottingham Forest as well. It was a similar goal that he scored in that friendly. He cut inside onto his right foot. He curled it into the net. And it's good to see him scoring again against Greek opposition after Kalithea. We can talk about Velde a little bit more later. But then, as you said, mate, like there were things already in the first half that I didn't like. Just selfishness or players not coordinated with each other. There was... in the first 10 minutes, there was a play down the right-hand side. I don't know if you remember this. There was a play down the right-hand side. Gelson Martins is through on the right. We've played, we've worked the ball, and we've got more attackers forwards. We've overloaded the defense. Gelson Martins does a cutback, and the ball's going to Mouzakitis, and he's on the edge of the box, and he's got a clear shot. Not on his left foot, but he could have hit it with his right. And you see Chiquinho come back and take the ball away from, just taking it away from Mouzakitis. And Mouzakitis had a shot, like a clear shot, and Chiquinho ruined it. He goes back, and then I think he takes a weak shot that's blocked. Things like that where you're like, there's no talking, the communication is poor. Yeah. And then there were other moments in the game where we were just selfish. Whether it was let's just maybe talk about Velde now. There were moments where we could have passed the ball, where we shot and we could have passed. And it was characteristic of some of the things that Velde did, and not just to pinpoint at him, but you got the sense that the players up top, they care more about their stats than scoring a goal. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh.
Oh yeah, you're right. I think it what's happened when you struggle to win in a league like that, and when you're Olympiacos, pretty much everyone wants to be probably directly or indirectly a savior. And players like Velde, for example, they basically playing the spot on the team, because if you have like 5, 6 wrong games back to back, you're basically out of the team and you're leaving the club. So that's all of those factors that psychologically for me affects the team overall. Because we all know Olympiacos, when the club goes into a small crisis, the players, like, it requires so many mental strength from the players to bounce back from that. And maybe those are time in which you realize like how Fortunis was important for the club, because he was molded into that. I mean, he faced so many bad periods for the club in the league, and he was always there, basically, especially in those games, to have that assist, that shot from outside the box. And the worst thing for me is that when Velde scored the first goal, like 2 years ago, 1 year ago, I would have said, okay, the game is won. Basically, we are going to win this game, maybe 2-0, 3-0. But nowadays, like it looks like every player from the opposite side, especially a smaller Greek club, can score at any time, and they surely know that, because the goal they scored, the first one, Panserraikos, no one was trying that like 2 years ago, 3 years ago at Karaiskakis, because it's a counter, and the guy plays it at 100%, because he knows that he can score at any moment, and he scores. And same applies when you play it against Levadiakos, like the header from Yanotas. We were not hitting those goals maybe 2 years ago, 1 year ago, when the team was more solid, more, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong or dreaming about something that was good, but I don't find exactly what's not working. And I think a comment say that, like, I'm tired of Mendilibar say the team needs improvement. It's its job to fix it. And I kind of agree with that, because we can't have the coach after every game saying he's expecting improvement, he's expecting the image of the team to change. It's up to him. And if he's throwing, we've seen the youngster playing. We've seen Velde playing, not playing, playing again. We've seen Rodinei as a winger. At some point, if it doesn't change, the issue is probably deeper. But maybe it's not that a big deal, because we had so many situations, so many posts it on the last games. So the factors like that could be, I don't know. Maybe we're too driven by the results overall.
No, what you say is true in a sense that in previous years, when you get the first goal at Karaiskaki,
Yeah.
you expect, the second one's going to come and then maybe the third. But now, honestly, it's again, you mentioned it when we were kicking off, that it's the same story every time. You go 1-0 up, and honestly, I'm watching the games and I'm thinking, where's the goal going to come from? Who's going to score? You're basically waiting for El Kabi to get on the end of something. But don't get me wrong, I think there was a little bit of improvement in this game. The intensity was a little bit higher than previous games. The ball was being worked through the middle. You saw some things like I said, the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, Gelson Martins was coming over to the left-hand side and we were trying to overload on that end. And that's what led to the goal. So there were some little things that improved, but again, like even when we went 1-0 up, you're thinking, okay, who's gonna kill this game? Like we need to kill the game, and we don't. And the one chance that they get, they score. And then everyone that's an Olympiacos fan is thinking, oh shit,
Yeah.
it's happening all over again. But that was quickly fixed right in the next phase of play. Nice play down the right hand side. Again, Rodinei puts a pinpoint cross in and El Kabi buries it. And we thought that was game over. I mean, the game ended 2-1, but my God, we had a heart attack at the end again, where they, literally, I think the dying moments of the game, a cross comes in from the left, and I think their striker completely fumbles it. It comes off his chest and bounces out. He was clear on goal. And that was a complete let off. But if we look at the stats of the game, we had 60% of the possession. Okay, you expect that Karaiskaki, 34 touches in the penalty area, only 2 big scoring chances, 8 on target, and they've got 2 on target, 1 big scoring chance. I mean,
no, it's the thing is, probably the opponent team, when they come to Karaiskakis, they believe they can do it. They believe they will have chances to score. But I remember, I think the last time that was visible, it was under Martins, like the player like Gianotas, like the star player from smaller leagues. They weren't even trying to do anything at Karaiskakis because they knew that the game was lost almost. And to me, it comes to the fact that Mendilibar probably showed too many times he do not consider the Greek league probably enough to be I don't know the word in English, but we can't have wingers from Panserraikos coming to Karaiskakis thinking they will have 3-4 chances to score. It never happened before, and the stadium itself needs to become again a fortress. And I know it sounds like the sentence that every coach would say, because it's basically the truth. Like every coach would say, at home we need to be dominant. We need to minimize the opponent offensive. But that's true, man. The most worrying thing is that how confident the opponent team are in Karaiskakis, and we're talking about Panserraikos. With 7 players less, we're talking about Olympiacos promoted side to the Super League. Look at this team, man. We should be fearing no team in Greece, and especially not the promoted sides. And it's not a matter of quality, because the team we have on the pitch is good enough for that. But yeah, I think we do fear those teams more than they fear us at Karaiskakis. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
It's hard to explain, and what's also quite worrying for me is that the manager never minces his words. He's always quite direct in his press conferences, both post-match and then like in the press room. But yesterday he said, I think he said like directly after the game that like he was not happy with the game. And later in the press conference, he says that we've been doing things on the training, like at the training ground, and he's starting to ask himself, like, why do we train those things if we don't implement them in the games? And you're like, that's worrying. It's worrying. He's saying that they're doing things in the training ground and they're not coming out on the pitch, or he's telling them to do things and they're doing the opposite on the pitch.
That's why I said something is wrong in the league, but I don't understand why, because even on the game in which we dropped points before, we had so many situations to erase those games. I mean, against Olympiacos, we ate 2 goals at home. We had Panserraikos. We had like a countless game like that in which we could have basically won, just like PAOK won today, because I've watched that game. Like Zivkovic had won a goal. The second goal is a shitty goal, like almost an own goal. But you have to force it. You have to force it. None of the competition is playing better than us in Greece. It's not a matter of quality of play. It's a matter of having multiple players that can score at any time. But I don't know. And to me, the most fun thing is that I don't even think we are going to lose the league. It's far from it, because every big Greek club right now is facing basically the same issues, like lack of concentration. Some of the clubs are lacking some quality players in the squad. But overall, the competition from the smaller club got better. Like the guy that scored the goal for Pons, I don't even recall his name.
Salazar.
Salazar. He scored at Tumba already, like super
Yeah.
fast player. Yeah,
Didn't
3
they
years
beat
ago.
Ajax last week as well?
Yeah, 3 years ago we were playing as like literal farmers. I'm sorry for that word, but when Olympiacos was coming they had the Lua cousin. Like you remember that? Like 2 years ago they had Lua
Yeah.
cousin.
Yeah.
They were a shitty team. Like even Yanotas quite improved a bit. Like those teams are better. They have better coaches, better
Yeah.
players, better fitness level. I don't know. We need to get better too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I think that the lower teams in Greece got a little bit better, or at least like Panserraikos looked like a fairly well coached team, man. And I mean, I'm looking at their results. Before they played us, okay, they beat Panionios in the cup. They beat Ajax 1-0. They beat Volos 1-0 away. They lost Offi 3-2. They beat Lamia. Okay, I mean, there's been a lot of surprises in the Greek league, and it's an interesting question to discuss. You know, whether the level of the top teams hasn't drifted further away from the rest of the league, including ourselves. If you look at us, like we're fourth on same points as Ike, but we're exactly where we finished. We finished third, not in the top two position, and the teams below, they've created a lot of upsets, whether it's Panetolikos, Levadiakos the other week. So I don't know. That's a whole different discussion about the level of the league. But there is one question that's come in from Padelis on Facebook. It says, would you guys rather have Olympiacos do better in the Greek league or in Europa? Secondly, why do you think we're having such success in Conference and Europa, but can't manage to beat or destroy teams in the Greek Super League who have no business beating us, all matches finishing as draws? I think this is something that we've talked about a bit before, and in our Patreon group. For those of you that haven't checked out our Patreon, you can get more content from us, different tiers. From $1 a month, you can get access to our WhatsApp group, very, very lively exchanges in there. $5 a month, you get exclusive content as well as early access to certain videos that we put up, and $10 a month gets you merchandise tier. So if you want to check out our Patreon, you can do that. Check out the description below. What was I saying? So yeah, what do you think of that question? Greek League or Europa or Europe? Is that even a question?
Man, for me, the answer is quite easy. I know it might be quite unpopular, but I do not care that much. I do care about the Greek League, but I don't care that much compared to Europe. And especially if we can win games in Europa League, I'm willing to basically sacrifice the Greek League. Even if I do believe that the two things are not to be, it's not. I mean, we can be good in the Greek League and good in Europa League, but I think that with Mandelibar, the answer is quite clear. He's a good coach for Europe, and I have doubts over him being consistent enough for the Greek League. So basically, I'm more happy with Olympiacos being good in Europe because it's good for the brand, it's good for the coefficients, it's good for the player we could sell later, it's good for the player we could attract to the Greek League. And it goes like that way. It goes from Europe to the Greek League. And then Greek League is made to qualify for Europe and to win titles. But for me, the answer is pretty clear, especially if we do play that much Greek players with the under 19, with Solakis, with Retsos, even with Apostolopoulos, Masouras. It hasn't matters. And I think overall this strategy will work. Probably not this season, maybe the next one.
But that's actually, I'm glad you touched on that, because that's one of the positives of the game. One of the few positives you can take besides the win is the fact that there were 6 academy players out on the field at different points during the game, starting with Mouzakitis, Retsos, and Zolakis, and then Apostolopoulos coming in for Castigna, Papacanelos coming on as well, and Kostulas coming on. So, you know, that's really, really encouraging, and for me that's always been important, that we place value in the work that's being done throughout the youth levels, and that those players get the opportunity to show what they can do. You can talk a lot about, you know, Kostulas and whether he hasn't found the net, but very encouraging things from all of those players, and I think that's definitely a positive. You mentioned Masouras as well, and we have a Greek backbone in this team, and I do think that is super important. I do think it is. Regarding Pantelis's question on Greek league versus Europe, etc., I think that you need to win the Greek league if you want to play in Europe. And Olympiacos is a team whose destiny is to challenge and compete for titles every single year. And if you don't win the league, it's the season's a failure, basically, domestically for sure. What with it being the 100 years as well, it's an extra special thing. I know it was Ajax 100 years last year, and they felt like they deserved it to a point where they may have tried too hard. They failed. Hopefully we can succeed where they failed this season. But for sure, man, like I agree with some of the points that you made too. If I would add something, why it is we're playing this way, different in Europe, different in Greece. Why can't we beat the minnows? It's because I think that this team's been built to play against better opposition, or play against opposition that leaves gaps, teams that don't expect us. Kostas Lianos talked about this a little bit last week, from English journalists to Scottish journalists asking him about Olympiacos, how do you play against them? It's like, well, imagine now that you go and play, I don't know, Manchester United away at Old Trafford. Like, what do you tell a Man United fan? You probably tell them, park the bus against us and hit us on the counter, right? The way United are at the moment as well, if we played our European game against us, I'd fancy our chances, but not if they deploy different tactics, like the tactics that Greek teams are deploying in the Greek league. You see what I mean? This team doesn't have tactical flexibility, but that is also a reflection, maybe a poor reflection on the coach. He has a certain style of play. He's very stubborn. We've talked about it before. I have to say as well, with the Yazici injury, I do worry a little bit about creativity and being able to break those defenses in Greece. I think there's going to be activity in the transfer market come the January transfer window to look for a player that can give us, and I don't like to talk about this very often because Pedence and Fortounis aren't here anymore, but I'm sorry, there is a clear lack of a player in the center of the field that can pick up the ball, turn and run at people. Mouzakitis has great vision. He can pick the defenses apart. He can play balls into the penalty area. He did it a few times yesterday where he played, balls in between like a line of 3 or 4 defenders, great through balls. But there's no one there that can do what Fortounis or Pedence did last season. I don't like to compare, but I'm just going to call it, like, we are missing a player like that in the Greek league. Maybe the things that Pedence did last season in Greece, again, particularly towards the end, like the Panserraikos game, he basically put us in a position there to leave Leoforos with a draw, scoring that goal, assisting for Jovetic. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You touched on something that was interesting to me, is that the question should not be probably the league or Europe, but how far are we willing to go in January to fix things, to win the league, and probably
Screw up
break.
something else.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I mean, what if we sign a top second striker or a number 10, and you have Kostulas dropping his playing time, or you have Muthak? No, I think Muthakitis won't go back to the bench, but I don't know. Maybe some guy like Velde, if he is adding some goals, some assists, even without playing nice, and you sign someone top at his position in January. I mean, last season it worked because it was meant to work. I guess because we've signed so many players in January with a random coach that got fired like weeks later. We ended up winning Conference League. We did not win the Greek League, and we have a super good squad at the time. And we also struggled to win some big games in the league. I mean, so it's difficult. I think it's more difficult than we think to fix the current situation. And you mentioned the Yazici's injury, and I mean it's not talked enough about. Like we basically lost the number 10 signing we've been waiting for the whole summer, like that, like after 20 minutes, out of nowhere. And it should be almost the number one topic of discussion between Olympiacos fan, because yes, Yazici wasn't ready to be good right now. Like he probably needed 1 month, 2 or 3 weeks of coming in before starting the game. But we lost like that someone that could have changed the season. And we have been eating posts many times too, and it affects the confidence. Like someone like Chiquinho, for example, eating the post like 2-3 times. El Kaabi eating the post against who was the header on the post on the last game against
that was El Kabi's header.
Yeah, like those factors. And I think that from my point of view, it's okay we get worried about the quality of playing of the team, but I would say it's not that big of a deal if you consider that the league is won because you're able basically to turn poor performances into 3 points. That's it. And you mentioned Podence's magic before. Many times Podence scored or gave an assist out of nowhere, and it changed the result, but not the content of the game. And that's what we lost basically with Podence and Fortunis. I don't think that the team is playing with less quality, but we also with less ability of scoring when it matters. And it's very hard to fix that, not only for Olympiacos.
I have an interesting thought. How much do you think it's affected us chemistry-wise this season? Playing this, I mean, we lost Fortunis and Podence. We knew we had Gelson Martins. We bought Christopher Velde. How many times have those two actually played on the same starting 11?
You mean Velde and Gelson?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it might be the second or the third time. Yeah. Because you knew you would get certain things, like when you're feeding the striker, when you're feeding El Kaabi knew where to run when Podence had the ball. He knew what position to put himself in when Fortunis had the ball. So those things are important when you're up front and you're trying to create and you're trying to break defenses. Like El Kaabi's great off the ball. We know this, like his diagonal runs, his pressing, he gets in the right positions. But there was something that happened after El Kaabi's goal. Like El Kaabi scores, like he goes and he celebrates, and then he turns around and Velde goes to congratulate him, and you see El Kaabi kind of go, like, pass me the ball. Or like, you should have done. There was a discussion that was happening there where he visibly was not happy, or he was trying to tell him something. He was like, look, man, like you know what I'm talking about. Like, what did you think of that? And like, I know we've said from the beginning of the season, like, okay, patience like needs time, and time is something very, very difficult. You know, time and patience are difficult to find at a club like Olympiacos. But you know, maybe there is still a lot of room for improvement. But the question is, do we think that Velde, Gelson, Martins, and El Kabi can find that chemistry?
Man, on paper, I would say yes, but the fact that we had to start the season without Rezos for 2 months. Then we had Masuras getting injured during international break. We had Gelson being fit and injured, and fit and injured.
Ortega out now.
Willian is injured. He was basically never fit to play, probably. I know it's difficult, even for me, to say, okay, we need to be patient, but we have been facing opposite factors for basically months now. And Yazici being the last one, probably we have Pirola out. We have, I don't know, Dani Garcia getting injured for the whole summer preparation. Stamenic getting injured part of the preparation. So
how big of a factor do you think the chemistry point is? Is it relevant, or are we just trying to find excuses?
I think it's relevant because we all know the kind of player Velde is. Like, basically, every league has that. You have talent guy, big. He seems to have an ego. Probably difficult guy to handle, but that's a guy that, put into nice chemistry, will deliver a lot. I'm not saying it's going to be new Miralas, but it's visible that the guy in this league has a lot to offer. But we need to accept how he is. Otherwise, it's going to fail. And if Gelson and Velde can start or play pretty much every game, that's going to be a game changer. If Gelson can play 30 games, I don't know why. I don't know why the chemistry wouldn't be there. Because the chemistry, I mean, for me, comes from mainly Gelson. From El Khabib, of course, because he was there last season. But Gelson is the game changer for me. Velde too, but Gelson can do pretty much everything. He has the ability, but then they had to create a goal out of nowhere. When you don't, like in Malmo, for example, like how many players are able to do that?
It's true. No, you're right. Like, I mean, I didn't watch the Malmo game. I only watched the highlights, and then I watched the first half on repeat. But yeah, some of the runs, I mean, the shot where he hits the bar, for example, he just picks it up and kind of runs around 3 players and smashes it. And, the goalkeeper's an absolute bystander watching that. Would have been a beautiful goal. Anywho, I think
chemistry is basically the basis of football. I mean, you know what I mean? Without chemistry, you have nothing. And I think Greece probably has to be the biggest example of that, because talent is one thing. When you're a professional football player, all of them basically have talent. Some of them have more talent, but with chemistry, I think it's the perfect word, because when we won Conference League, we thought so many players were that good to be consistent at that level for years. But Jovetic, he went to Omonia. It's a good Cyprus club. Yeah. He didn't find anything better. Iborra, I wouldn't say he went back to Levante, because it was a non-related sports choice. I mean, he went there because it's his beloved club. But we were peaking at that time, and even Carmo, look at Carmo right now. He's not performing at the level he was performing last season, because the chemistry isn't there yet. And how can you create a chemistry? It's up to Mendilibar to find out. It's a big task. I know that it's a big task, because everyone wants to find that. But
but I feel like whenever I bring that point up, people tell me, Costa, those are excuses. But you look everywhere in the park right now. Like, Carmo was such an important piece last season, because everyone in that team knew what their role was. Mouzakitis is just starting, he's becoming a starter in the team. He's cementing his place next to Heze. He's got great vision. Velde hasn't bedded himself in. Gelson Martins plays 2 games, out 2, then back for 1. We know the story. So for me, it's still normal, particularly in those games when you're being asked to break down defenses that park the bus. In Europe, where we find more space to exploit, I think it is just a different proposition. And then the some of those players in that team, they find elements of that identity that we had, particularly in the high press. In the European games, Santiago Heze has really showed up. Yeah, in terms of how he presses on the ball. And I think there's this discussion going on about players picking and choosing games. I'm sorry, but I think that does happen. That does happen. There's an extra little click, and it might, saying the words picking and choosing games might not necessarily be the right wording, but it's just the players have that extra little bit of motivation. It's different when you play in Greece, and it's different when you play in Europe. Like those European nights, there's magic. You're traveling away to play against Lyon, or even Malmö. They knocked PAOK out. They were on the verge of Champions League. They're a serial winner in the Swedish league, a respectable opponent to play in Europe, and you want to go and win those games. You have to win a game like that if you want to progress in the Europa League, if you want to go in the top 8. And we've also got that, that title kind of from last season that we have to carry. So we have to go into those games we're wearing this badge that we won the Conference League, and you've got to go out and show something extra against your opponent. So I don't necessarily think that that's a taboo discussion for me. But to say that it's just different, man. It's just different. Just the way that it's portrayed in media, sometimes it's we disrespect the Greek league.
I think we would need. I don't know how the club can fix that, because it's the most frustrating thing. And even last season, if you remember the playoffs we had, the depth of the team at that time was so big, and we should have been winning pretty much every single playoff game, or I would say huge majority of it. And I might be the only one, but I still believe that the league was winnable, and without having to do a massive run of winning games, because AEK basically gifted the title to PAOK out of nowhere. And without the draw in Thessaloniki, we would have played the title against AEK at home. We won. Then we would have to go to Tumba to win. We lost, and we went to Leoforos and we drew. Yeah. But it was possible to snatch the game with the quality we had, and something mentally has not clicked with Mendilibar about the league. And the more it goes, and the more complicated it will be. And maybe not this season, because the competition, for me, is struggling equally like us. But it's at the end of it, it's up to the player to believe they can win the title. Yeah, if they don't believe they can win the title, it's worrying. And if they don't understand that they have to put more effort into it, it's worrying. And maybe the issue is above Mendilibar, like the sports director, people inside the club, like not being able to say to the players, okay, you play for a Greek club, the biggest Greek club, you need to win the Greek league. If you want to be successful in this club, you need to win the Greek league. It has been 2 years without title. We need to win the Greek league. We need to win the Greek Cup. You are well paid to win both things. So get your reality check and go back on the pitch, and that's it. Like the worst thing is that I don't even feel that those players want to crush opponents. Like even to have more statistics, I don't even care about the reason. I'm not naive. Lots of those players probably would want to be elsewhere if they had the chance to. But you have to want to crush the league to score your goals, like to be a little bit more selfish when it comes to crush opponents, and then we just need a stretch of wins. And maybe the week that comes is perfect. Maybe not. I don't know. But PAOK away, like at home, it's a no-brainer. You don't have to. You said it before. You don't need extra motivation. You basically don't need to train because Mendicba has a full summer of work. And as you said, they have been working things on training. So it's up to the players to put that on games now.
Well, we're going to have some preview of the Rangers game coming up on the channel. So if you're joining us, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, be notified whenever that preview goes live on the channel. I think Ari's been talking to some friends in Scotland, another podcast following Glasgow Rangers, who we play on Thursday at home at the Karaiskaki. Marshall, before we wrap up, should we do man of the match, coach's grade for the Panserraikos game?
I would say I would give my man of the match award to Velde, because even if I know it still pisses people off, but I want to encourage him, because I know it's no surprise, but it's difficult when you play for Olympiacos to bounce back after a bad run of games. So he will have that award for me because he scored and that was needed. And I'm not expecting him to do more than that for the moment. If he scores and gives assists, I'm okay with that. The Velde of November is not the Velde of January, February, March, with a little bit more of experience at Olympiacos. So if he can score and assist, I'm okay with that.
It's a difficult one for me because he frustrated me. Yesterday. I loved his finish. I love that he's looks more confident again. I think he was lacking that the last couple of weeks. He said it in an interview he gave post-match, like, that's, it's inherent in a football player's life. There's ups and downs, and he's been down for a month, and he started really well, then he kind of went on a dip of form, and now he's finding form again. He's got 3 goal contributions in the last 3 games, assist, goal. I think you kind of have to give it to him though. Like I'm trying to think, like Rodinei, for example. I think he was consistent. He got the assist for the second goal. I think he was important, but okay, fair enough. I think Velde did enough to merit man of the match. I just would like to see him not necessarily be more altruistic, but in certain situations you thought, like, mate, there's no shot on and there's a pass on, pass it, and you just saw he's trying too hard. He's trying too hard, and you don't need to do that, mate. Gelson also, like he does it as well. So Chiquinho, man, like he's got better options on. It's like, mate, some bad decisions in the final third, like when we get close to scoring. But
Velde would be like the guy that he took a girl on a date, like came on a suit, go to a fancy restaurant, and it did the hardest part, and the girl said okay, and now he's wearing a suit at every date. Like it gets on a suit, like be smarter, man. Like it's not that a big deal. We don't expect prime Cristiano Ronaldo for Olympiacos.
Yeah.
With the ability they have to dribble players, like, and I'm coming back to Fortunis, because hitting doubles like that in Greece means one thing, is that it means that you basically know when to pass the ball at the very best moment. Like my frustration over Fortunis never was that it wasn't passing the ball at the right moment. It wasn't doing too much things. Like it was doing probably not enough defense, or maybe his body betrayed him with the 2 ACLs. But being frustrated when a winger does what Velde is doing right now is the most frustrating thing, because he can improve on that, but it would require Velde to stop being Velde, and I don't think it's possible. So we need to accept that. And I'm accepting that frustration if he scores or gives assists. But if he doesn't, he's getting into trouble.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that those comments from the manager are a wake-up call to everyone. There were some reports also in the papers that his comments in the dressing room, it was quite loud in the dressing room, let's just say, post-match, and Mendilibar had quite a few things to say to his players. So hopefully that's something that that we can take into consideration, or the players take into consideration, as a little shake up before the game on Thursday. And about the coach, what about the coach's grades? I'm going to give him B minus. B minus for me. Didn't like the Danny Garcia sub. Maybe I'm sounding like a broken record, but I think Sergio Oliveira had a decent game. Well, at least a much better game than Danny Garcia had against Calithea, and I was a little bit annoyed to see him come on instead of Sergio. We've been lacking set pieces as well. I don't understand it. Well, the only explanation is it's the only signing that he asked for personally. So that does make sense to a point, but based on what I've been seeing from Danny Garcia, I'm just not interested at all. Not in the slightest. So otherwise, I think the changes were relatively okay. I think Castilla was great, just consistent. Out on the left, he had that shot as well that hit the post. It was really clever, well placed, well struck. And even Apostolopoulos wasn't bad when he came on. I mean, he got a nice cross in for that scissor kick from El Khabi, but he was out of position for the goal. Sorry, I'll stop there.
Why would you even sub off Costinha for Apostolopoulos like that, man? Those subs from Mendilibar are unexplainable to me. I don't understand. Why would you sub Costinha out of that game for Apostolopoulos? Why would you sub a left back, even if it's a right back that plays on the left? Why would you sub a full back when it's not injured? Man, I will never understand that in football, because why? Just why? It's not like you're subbing someone like Tsimikas that is known to be very good offensively or can take set pieces. I don't want to blame Apostolopoulos himself, because it's bigger than him. It's Mendilibar subbing. I don't understand, because Costinha was having a very good game, and defensively is probably the most reliable defender we have, a part of Red Sauce.
Yeah.
So do not sub a fullback like that. And the frustration, and people will probably say I'm crazy because I'm saying that in every show, but do not do the 5 subs when the team is struggling, because 5 subs mean you're changing half of the team. If you don't count the goalkeeper that does not come out, you're changing half of the team. We can't afford to change half of the team right now, because especially not if you have Dani Garcia that comes in.
Those players need to be they need to be matched, like 100% match fit, the players that you throw in there. Even a match fit player needs a little bit of time, like getting into the game, getting warm, adjusting to the pace.
I'm sure one day a big coach would say, you know why people keep saying the old school football was better? Because you have 3 subs, though we have 5 subs, and they don't make even sense. They don't make sense. You don't even have to think the subs you're going to make, because you have 5 subs. And I'm sure, like, Mendilibar can't really, in the Greek league, his subs like 80% of the time they make no sense. You're throwing Danny Garcia at home against Panserraikos. Why?
Yeah.
No, why?
What's he going to do?
It's nothing. Cost us a goal, maybe. I'm looking at the subs on that game, and you have two subs that were Apostolopoulos for Costinha and Garcia for Mozakitis, unneeded. Androutsos for Velde at the time, unneeded. Just let him play the full game.
Oh yeah, no, that was annoying. That was very annoying.
If you want to send a message, okay, just start
Yeah.
just start Androutsos then. I mean, anyway, I don't know if it's that big of an issue, the 5 subs, but it's something I'm thinking because I'm watching a lot of the games, and you see two players coming on at the same time, and it makes no sense. It kills basically every rhythm you can have in the game, and unless you're Manchester City and you have a bench made of 5-star players in every position, no, you don't have 5 subs that are good enough, unless we play against Egale or against Panserraikos, in Greek Cup. It doesn't make sense to me.
Are you worried about Yaremchuk?
Yes. I don't know how he can. I forgot the guy, man. I forgot he wasn't playing. Well, what is to say? Maybe people will realize how good of a signing Hassan was back in the time. Look at his numbers, man, for a second striker.
Yeah, no.
That's why we were winning the league.
I'm not disputing, because he was a fantastic super sub for a couple of seasons, like no doubt about it. In Greece, in Europe as well, he earned his money, like he earned his paycheck 100%.
It was
With
yeah.
With Yaremchuk, he just feels like he's
No.
I'm trying to think like who his mates are in the team. Like if you look at the squads, like it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I feel like he hasn't been. He could have maybe been treated a little bit differently. Get some minutes, like get him on. Like I don't. I worry that we're just overly reliant on El Kabi.
Yeah.
And God forbid, like something happens to him, he gets injured. What do you do? What do you do? Like
We cry.
So it's like Yaremchuk has no match fitness. It's a problem. It's a problem. But anyway, I'm gonna we can maybe end on we're gonna end on that note. Is there anything else we want to cover? I think we're good.
I would say I'm really enthusiastic to see the club playing against Rangers, because apart of the fact that Rangers is a massive club, it's the kind of opponent I want us to face, because I'm expecting like lots of intensity, like just like Aston Villa, with probably less quality, but the maybe
the intensity of playing a UK-based team.
Exactly, and maybe it can wake up some players we have, or maybe that will be the biggest, the main thing we need to activate the quality those players like Gelson, like Velde, like El Kaabi have. And I'm confident when we play in Europe, because it shifts, like teams are fearing to play against El Kaabi and stuff, but the Mendilibar approach in Europe works quite perfectly, even if the quality of those games aren't that better compared to the league, but it works. And maybe we went back to a situation just like the basketball team when they went back to second division, one team in the league, one team in Europe.
People have mentioned that on the show, including myself, the last couple of weeks. It's like, or even I've said, can we have one manager, Silaidopoulos in Greece and Mendilibar in Europe? But okay, that's all we've got time for this time, ladies and gentlemen. It's still going Monday morning, early hours in Greece. 11:23 right now, Central European time. Wherever you are in the world, Olympiacos fans watching this show live or later on, leave us a like, smash that like button. It really helps us to find more Olympiacos fans around the world. Yes, Moshe.
I will just have a last word for our guy Marcelo. Just got resigned for Fluminense, and I just want to say one thing, because we spoke a lot about Mendilibar, but I think we owe some words to Mitchell, to congratulate Mitchell for having let Marcelo out of so many missions because he wasn't ready to play. And I think we don't realize how hard the task was for Mitchell when he came back. And including myself, the first reaction I had when I saw Mitchell coming back was like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? This guy is not even better than Savas Pantelidis. And I was so wrong, because we owe him so much. And I just wanted to say that because he had a squad made of unprofessional players and two big names that were Marcelo and James. And he made that work. And he wasn't afraid to put anyone out of the squad. So it's quite of random saying that, but I just wanted to say.
No, it's interesting you say that. I honestly don't have I can't say anything bad about that coach. I can't. Knowing some things that other people don't know as well, but no. Those are stories for another time. But until then, again, hit the like button, guys. Subscribe. There's going to be preview for the Rangers game. More preview coming up for the Rangers game. So like and subscribe. Thrilos International. See you next time, guys.
Bye-bye.